Melissa Lane, and welcome to the LifeKraft podcast. LifeKraft is passionate about helping you live your everyday life better by sharing inspiration, awareness, and tools to enable you to create a fulfilling life. Well, it is mid-November, and it is like in the thick of it, in the thick of holiday season. And I thought that this would be a perfect time to share some of my own experience and some of the things that I use and have used throughout the years to help cope with the holiday season while on a healing journey from disordered eating. Because I don't want you to spend this holiday season at war with yourself, at war with food, at war with your body. I want you to have a good time, to live life, to make some memories. So before we get going, I just want to remind you, I absolutely love hearing from you. So tag at the LifeKraft and share your biggest takeaway, maybe something that you heard that inspired you, or perhaps something that might have triggered you just a little bit, but it was the catalyst for change that you needed. And I'd love for you to leave a positive review after you've downloaded this episode and just tell us what you loved about this episode as well as some of the others, so that we know what content to bring you that'll serve you even more. I want you to think of the LifeKraft podcast as a resource, like a library that you can just go back to and learn from and listen to, whether you need some motivation, need some inspiration, need a different way of perceiving the world, or maybe need some tools because you need to take action to change your life for the better. Whatever it is that you need, the LifeKraft podcast is that resource for you. So in this episode, I actually recorded like a 40-minute episode, but I got to the end of the episode and I listened to it and I thought, good Lord, that sounds like a health coach. Now, for those of you who know me, I'm a health coach by profession, while I host the LifeKraft podcast. But I listened to that episode and it didn't even sound like the type of health coach that I am with my clients. It sounded like I took all of the theories that I've ever learned and just blurted them out like a parrot. And I got to the end of that recording and I thought, what was going on with me? And I was obviously not in alignment with the message that I wanted to share with this episode, because I struggled with my relationship with food since the age of about 9, and I struggled with body image issues from the age of 12. That was the first time I remembered that time when I realized that the way that my body looks and the size and the weight and the shape of it matters to people, not to me. And it was quite a realization. And I usually share that in my community at Melissa Lane Wellness, if you want to go and follow me there. But I wanted to share personal tips and I didn't. So I re-recorded it. That's what I'm doing right here, right now. So you'll see that a lot of the tips that I'm going to share are things that I used to help me cope during holiday seasons when I was on my healing journey. And it is seasons, it's plural, because I promise you this, when you heal from diet culture, when you start healing from disordered eating, when you have, like I had, body dysmorphia in a very slight degree, remember all of these things are on a spectrum. When you go through those changes in your own life and in your heart and in your soul and you deal with all of that, it doesn't just go away in an instant. It's a journey. It sounds so freaking cliche, but it's absolutely true. And I wanted to share from my personal experience some tips for you, but I want you to stick around till the end, because at the end I'm going to share a couple of rapid fire type tips that are quick things that you can take action on in the moment during the holiday season that'll just keep you feeling really good and just in alignment with who you are and who you want to be. I also want to just add a little disclaimer that there might be things that trigger you. I know people call it a trigger warning. I don't quite like that word, but I am going to be talking about binge eating, about disordered eating, about body dysmorphia, and probably sharing a couple of my own personal experiences. So if you're at the stage in your healing journey where you can't listen to that, I call it my little hermit phase, where in your healing journey, you just want to keep yourself so safe because you're still healing the deeper stuff, then just save this episode for later. There will come a time where you'll be strong enough to listen to a couple of these things and take action. But for now, be in that hermit phase. Just absolutely focus on where you are now. Don't listen to anything triggering. You'll get stronger. I promise you, you will heal. It is an absolute fact. You will. Promise you that. So, the first thing that I want to mention is the holiday season is quite a crazy time. The holiday season is like the ultimate cheat day. Have you ever thought of that? I've really started to realize that diet culture seeps into our timeline. Diet culture has created this mindset that I would like for you to get curious about, become aware of, and then start rephrasing it to what you would like to experience. But diet culture has really taken over the timeline in regards to Monday to Friday afternoon, I'm good in inverted commas. I don't have alcohol. I eat really clean in inverted commas. I do all of those things. And then Friday night, I can have a treat. Maybe Saturday, I'll have a cheat day. And then on Sunday, we'll have a big meal and I'll just rest and recover and I can have some extra dessert and all of those things. And I'm here to say that I really think that we've made December and the holiday season the cheat day of our year. And it's absolutely crazy because we're buying into this concept of diet culture that time equals good and bad relationship with food and time equals whether you exercise or not. And in this month, you can go way out and eat a bunch of things that might not be in alignment with who you are. Or it's summer, so you need to look a certain way and you need to starve and you need to deprive and you need to feel guilty if you don't get to the gym because hot girl summer and all of that crap. And I really want you to just be aware of that firstly. Because I know when I realized that, when I started learning about diet culture, realizing that it's mostly based on my size, my weight, my shape, and that they use these terminologies, these phrases to keep you locked into that so that they can make a lot of money off of your insecurities, I started breaking out of that. And one of the first things I did was I realized that I'm not going to put a time limit on my health. I'm not going to have this time limit of this is when I'm going to be healthy and then I'm going to be really, really unhealthy for a short period of time and then I can go back. That's the ultimate diet mentality. And I want you to just become curious. Do you have that mentality when it comes to the holiday season? And perhaps you treat December like a cheat day. And maybe that's not necessary anymore because do you know what the great thing is? You create your experience. A lot of people say you create your own reality. I love that. It's absolutely true. With every belief, with every thought, with everything. Now, you can't always control what happens to you, but you create the experience that you have by creating the meaning and the emotions and the feelings and the beliefs and all of those goodies. But how about you start realizing that if you want to practice food freedom, and I assume that's what you want if you're listening to this podcast episode, that you can have whatever food you want, whenever you want it, without a time frame. Take that diet culture. So that is one of the biggest things when I work with clients is to show them that you can have food anytime you want. Any type of food. There's no restrictions on these times and these months and these weeks and these days and these holidays where you can just binge out. It's not necessary because that leads to depriving yourself, binging, and feeling immense guilt and shame, which will lead to another deprivation, another binge. And the cycle just continues like that. So that's one of the first things that I want you to realize. Ditch the diet culture mentality when it comes to time. You don't need to fall for that. It's an absolute lie. People are making a lot of money off of you. Your health is not based on a time frame. You can be healthy anytime you want while enjoying the holiday season. So start just taking notes of when you start falling into that habit pattern, and then you can just say to yourself, I can have really like any type of food that I want, any time of year, any time of day, any time. I can have cake at 10 in the evening, and I can enjoy a cocktail when it's not a Friday. And I can do all of that if I want, if I choose. But that's the one thing that I really want to hammer in, and that's my next point. What is your identity? So many of us don't have a clear picture of what we want. And I always love, Dean Graziosi always says that if I ask you right now, what is it that you don't want when it comes to your health, your relationship with food, and your relationship with your body? I bet you'll be able to name a bunch of things. I don't want this, Melissa. I don't want to binge. I don't want to be afraid to eat food. I don't want to feel shameful after I do. I don't want to feel like I need to exercise every day. And you'll have a long list of everything that you don't want. But have you ever taken the time to think about what you do want? What would you like to experience this holiday season when it comes to your health, your wellness, your relationship with food, and your body? Would you like to have no fear around food? Would you like to have peace of mind? Would you like to enjoy an ice cream on the beach and a piece of cake and not feel a thing afterwards? Would you like to get up in the morning with a happy heart and just enjoy making memories with your family? Would you want to be okay with maybe gaining a little bit of weight, knowing that that is absolutely not the end of the world and that you're just eating a little bit more because it's a different time of year and you're getting the opportunity to eat food that you normally wouldn't eat during the rest of the year, and that's fine. Not making it a big thing. Still staying healthy. What would you like? And maybe write a couple of things down. And I want to challenge you, share that with me. Share it in a post, share it on Instagram stories, or share it with me in a comment or in a review. Share what you would like to experience in this holiday season. And here's why. There's a saying that goes that human beings will always revert back to how they identify themselves. So I want you to think about that. If you know what you don't want and you know what you do want, you can decide who you want to be. But most of us are so stuck in the old paradigm of who we were or who we are right at this moment that we never think about our identity in regards to our future self. Now that might sound a little confusing, but I want to break it down for you. So imagine this. You set a thermometer in your house to a certain degree. You want to keep the house nice and warm. So say it is 27 degrees Celsius. You open up the door and it's cold outside and a gush of wind comes in and that drops the temperature down in the room to 22 degrees. What is that thermometer going to do? It is going to take it back up to 27 degrees. That's what it's there for. So you have the same effect on yourself when you try and change. Your identity is that thermometer that is set to a certain point, to 27. And when things happen in your life, good or bad, you will always revert back to that 27 degrees Celsius, no matter what. So in my case, I was the chubby kid. I was criticized a lot for my chubby cheeks and my curvy body, and my friends made fun of me in regards to a lot of things like that. And I had a very well-meaning adult that did not have the opportunity to learn and grow like I did, who criticized me because of her own fears around food. And I grew up in an environment where women would criticize each other and each other's bodies and all of those types of things. So that was my set point. Food is bad or good. The less food you eat, the more you are praised because it's somehow some or other freaking, I don't know, prestatie. I don't know what it is. It's just like, I don't understand why starving yourself is seen as a form of amazing discipline. And over-exercising, even if you're tired, is also something to be regarded as good. And the smaller you are, the better it is. And these were my set points. You have set points like that. They form your identity. Every single phrase in your mind that I am ... I am the chubby kid. I am big boned. I am too skinny. I am fragile. I always have dis-ease in my body. I'm the sick kid. That was one of mine as well. You'll always revert back to that. So I want you, before we get into the rest of this, to look at your identity. What do you identify with? Do you identify with the phrase that food is an issue for you? Or, oh, I struggle to stay on a diet. I struggle with my weight. I struggle with my mindset. I struggle with binge eating. I struggle. No. You have the power to change your identity. It might take some time. It might take some repetition. That's just how your brain works. Your brain works with repetition because you need to get to that subconscious mind. But I promise you, that's one of the best investments you can make if you want to cope with the holiday season, is start looking at what your identity is. What you say about yourself, what you truly believe about yourself, because you will always revert back to that. So I encourage you right here, right now, to make that the most powerful version of yourself. You might be listening to this and thinking, Melissa, I am in the thick of it. I am barely holding on. This year has kicked my ass into a different dimension. I cannot even, all of this positive talk is making me nauseous. I don't even wanna. There is not one good thing about me. I can't get to that point where I see an empowered version of myself when it comes to food and when it comes to this. You don't know what I did. I ate to the point of being uncomfortable yesterday, Melissa. I have food hidden in my drawers from my husband or from my parents. I cannot control myself. 5 minutes ago, I purged. Melissa, you don't get it. I do. And I relate. And I hear you, because that was me. All of those examples were me. You might have one that sounds a little different, but I know the shame. I know the guilt. I know how powerless you feel. I know how you feel like there's something wrong with you. And that version of you that I'm talking about is so far away. So, the best thing I learned from coaches and mentors in my life is, adopt mine. Here are some of the phrases that I say to myself now that I've healed. Say it to yourself even if it doesn't feel like you yet. Just commit to believing that there is a version of you out there like that, because it was possible for Melissa and countless others. So, one of the phrases that I identify with is, health comes naturally to me. My body is naturally healthy. I have a lot of energy. Food has no hold over me. I can enjoy food. I am free to enjoy food anytime I want. I choose to enjoy more food that nourishes my body and makes me feel light and good and energized, whatever that is on that day. I like to move my body when my body wants to move, but when my body needs rest, I rest, and I don't feel guilty about it. And these things might sound so far away for you, and I encourage you to find even more of these types of affirmations or incantations or mantras that you can just rely on in those moments where you feel a little weak. You can stand on the shoulders of people who came before you. You can look at people who have healed, and you can just adopt their beliefs until you have strong beliefs of your own. That's what I did. I was super weak mentally, physically a couple of years ago, and I relied on these types of messages, and I adopted those beliefs. So try and do that. Now, I know this is a long introduction, but ditching that diet culture mentality and understanding your identity matters before you go into that holiday season is so important. Now I want to get into a couple of things that might trip you up that I want you to be aware of. And then I want to get into a couple of things that you can do on a daily or weekly basis that'll keep you in alignment. Alignment is what you want. Alignment with who you want to be and how you want to feel. That's your only job. Wake up in the morning and think about, what does food freedom mean to you? What does ditching diet culture mean to you? What does having a healthy, happy holiday season look like to you? And then making choices in alignment with that. One of the biggest things for me is don't compare your journey to someone else's. Don't compare your journey to your family and friends' journey. I know there was a time when I was healing my disordered eating, and I would be around some of my friends and they would judge me on the amount of food that I would be eating because they would be drinking and smoking cigarettes. Now that's fine for them. I'm not going to advocate that because it's not healthy at all, but that was part of their journey and they've healed as well. But in that moment, I compared myself to them and I was really doubting my own journey. And then you get around some family members that might be well-meaning, that might not really understand what your journey is or what you are doing and how you are healing, or even know that you're doing that. And they might say things that trigger you to compare yourself to them. And I want you to really not fall into that trap, because comparison is not only the thief of joy, but comparison is one of the things that got you into disordered eating, an unhealthy relationship with food, and into diet culture in the first place. So really watch comparison. And one of the things that helped me when I find myself comparing myself to others is the idea that this world that we're living in is based on vibrations and frequency. And if you see something that is something that you would like, someone who radiates health and positivity, someone who has food freedom, someone who in a very positive way you are wanting to compare yourself to, don't compare yourself. See it as a moment of alignment. See it as a moment where you are in vibrational harmony with that healed version. That's just amazing if you think about it. So anytime you see someone happy, healthy, eating, okay with their body, thriving, having food freedom, ditching diet culture, and you're like, why am I not there yet? Why does it still feel like such a struggle? Don't believe those thoughts. That is the universe, God, whatever you believe in's way to show you, hey honey, you're on the same vibe, just keep going. You're on the same vibration. You're not where you were anymore. Otherwise, you wouldn't even see that. And that will pull you up out of comparison instead of dragging you down into feeling inferior. The next thing that I want you to remember during the holiday season is that you are more than your body. I know it sounds like such a cliche, but so many times we forget that literally your body is the least interesting thing about you, and that this little thing is going to change, and sometimes it's going to be more squishy than other times. Sometimes it's going to be bigger. Sometimes it's going to be smaller. But just allowing your body to be separate from you is a very, very vital thing to do on a healing journey, especially at this time. You might be around people who are not on a healing journey, friends, family, relatives, whatever it is, and they might be speaking negatively about their own bodies, about other people's bodies, even your own body. And I know it can be hard. I've been there. I've been criticized numerous times, not only on the size, weight, and shape of my body, but a bunch of other things, and it stings. But I want you to just think about the fact that they don't know, but you know that you are more than your body, and that there are so many things that are more interesting about you than just this little meat suit that we get to inhabit on our journey here on earth. And I want you to remember that. Make it fun. Keep it light. I'm more than my body. I can absolutely enjoy that piece of cake and then just not be in the diet mentality that now I'm having a cheat day so I can have all the cake. And darling, if you want to have all the cake, have all the cake. I'm like all for that. I don't care about that, because health is way more than just what you eat. Health is your alignment. Health is how fulfilled you are. Health is the memories you make, the connection with family and all of that. But I don't want you to fall in the trap to think that your body is the most important part of you. It's not. Especially not the way it looks. Is it healthy? Is it vibrant? Is it alive? Is it energized? Fantastic. If it's not, you can get it there. This is just one part of the journey for you. The next thing is, food isn't the enemy, and don't make it one. Remember that. Write it down. Food isn't my enemy. It's an affirmation you can take with you this holiday season, because it's the funniest thing that happened, but I don't know about you, but I grew up in the Afrikaans culture. And I grew up with friends from a lot of different cultures. And it's the funniest thing. But as South Africans, like, the holiday season is about food. Who cares about the gifts and stuff? But the holiday season revolves around food. You literally plan your days around food. And I kind of love it because you can witness people that don't have unhealthy relationship with food and how they deal with it. Like, they will just enjoy themselves. They won't overeat. They won't eat to a point of discomfort. They won't want to purge afterwards. They won't do any of the things that we as people in recovery would do. And it's kind of freeing to look at it that way if you choose to. But I want you to remember that food isn't the enemy. Food is there to be enjoyed. Food can be fuel. Food can be nourishment. Food can be something you connect with in regards to your family and friends. Food can be a celebration, but food is not a comfort. And food is not something that's going to take away your problems. And food isn't something that's going to make you feel better in the long run. And food isn't something that's bad or scary or evil or the cause of all your problems. It's kind of neutral, and you get to decide how you view it. And I want to encourage you to adopt the attitude that food is not my enemy. Food is my friend, and I can enjoy food, and my body will tell me when I want food and when I don't and how much I want. And I'm just going to stick to having a healthy outlook when it comes to food, but I'm going to enjoy myself, make memories, feel free around food, have some chocolate if I want, have a drink if I want, but I'm not going to force myself to overeat. I don't need to feel the need to binge. I'm safe around food because food isn't the enemy this holiday season or ever. The next thing that I want you to really focus on, and write this down, but I encourage you, especially if you're in the thick of it, find support. Ask for help, whether you find a coach, whether you go to a friend, whether you talk to a family member about your journey and tell them, I'm so scared to go into this holiday season or to go to that party alone or to be around so much food while we're on holiday and to be around that family member that might trigger me with something that they said. I want you to really ask for help, ask for support. Brené Brown always says that it's so courageous to be vulnerable. And the only thing keeping you from sharing that with someone that you can share that with, someone who is dependable, someone who is in your corner, is the fact that you're just scared to be vulnerable because it feels kind of very, very weak, to be quite honest. But I promise you, when I started talking about my disordered eating with people that I knew would honor me, would have my back, and that would kind of keep it in their vault, as Brené Brown says, that keeps it just between us, it was empowering to know I had someone in my corner, someone that I could talk to, a coach that I could send a message to, someone I could share my wins with, someone that I could share my revelations with of, oh my goodness, that uncle said something and it didn't trigger me in the same way, and I didn't go for a binge, because I used to binge to the point of discomfort where I couldn't even sleep because my stomach would be aching. And so I get it. But I promise you that if you find support and if you're courageous enough to be vulnerable with someone you trust and someone that loves you, it's a really great thing to have during the holiday season, because a lot of things come up. And we're going to share more about that in the coming episodes in regards to family and life and money and all of these things. But I really want you to have a support system when it comes to your health and your wellness. The next thing I want you to be aware of throughout the holiday season that's going to help you cope is know your wonky knee. In other words, know what your triggers are. You've got to know what your triggers are when it comes to your disordered eating patterns so that you can manage these triggers with healthy tools. And that's the next thing. So I had so many triggers. Let me just be honest. I had a trigger when I would feel lonely. I would have a trigger when I feel not good enough. When I am overwhelmed with anxiety. I've always been a very anxious person. I struggled with anxiety for such a long time. But when I feel any of those things coming up, I would either starve or I would binge. and my deprivation and starvation would eventually lead to a binge. And when I couldn't have that under control, I would purge. And that was usually triggered a lot over the holiday season when I was with family members that I don't necessarily gel with that much for long periods of time, or when someone would trigger me with something they would say, or when I would feel alone in a house full of people. There are so many examples that I can use. You got to know what yours is, and then you've got to have tools to help you. I have tools that help me when I am embarking on this thing called life, because I still have a couple of things with my mental health and my physical health that I need to do. And I'm going to share a couple of them at the end with you. So I really want you to know what your wonky knee is, that thing that just gives out when it's got a little bump, and then know what your triggers are, and then learn how to manage those triggers with healthy tools. If you need help with that, reach out. There are coaches just like me. You can reach out to me, Melissa Lane Wellness, or you can reach out to another coach. There are people that can help you, healthcare professionals, amazing psychiatrists, psychologists, and I know so many caring dietitians and nutritionists that'll help you with these types of healthy tools. There are always ways to go about it. Then the next thing that I want to share is plan ahead. Remember, plan ahead. You got to plan ahead so that you don't get overwhelmed when you get there. If you know that there are certain things that you prefer eating on that day, and remember, you can eat what you want. You can plan ahead and you can take that meal with, or you can plan ahead so that you have all of your supplements there. You can plan ahead so that you take time to rest, even though it's a really big family gathering. Take some time to be by yourself. I'm kind of an ambivert, so I need some time off on my own, even though I might look like an extrovert. Sissy needs her time by herself. Otherwise, I feel very anxious, and then it triggers my disordered eating. Absolutely. So plan ahead, whatever that means for you. Understand that you have the right to set up boundaries and say, I'm going to leave earlier. Plan ahead, communicate that with people, or even just the person that you are asking for support. There are always ways to go about this and to plan ahead to make it easier for you when you get into that situation. And planning ahead also means really just tidying up your diary and your calendar so that you don't feel overwhelmed, and so that that's not a trigger. It's a very busy time with exams and a lot of commutes and parties here and family gatherings there and stressful shopping and all of these things. Plan ahead in whatever way would work for you. Now I'm going to give you a couple of the things that I do to manage my triggers, because Sissy has her wonky knees. I know what they are. And these are some of the things that I do when it's holiday season and I'm like in the thick of it to help me. I always practice self-care. I love my self-care. So get 1 or 2 or 3 things that you can say, these are my self-care tools that I can take with me on holiday and that I can practice throughout this holiday season, whether it is taking a nice long bath, whether it's setting healthy boundaries, because I believe that is also self-care, whether it is going for a walk in nature, connecting with a family member, calling a friend, sticking to your coaching schedule, nourishing your body with food and those types of things. I really want you to just practice self-care. It is so important. The next thing that I do is nourish my body. It doesn't matter what I have to eat or whether I exercise or not. I'm not in diet culture anymore. I practice food freedom and intuitive eating, but I nourish my body because I like how I feel when I do. So I'm not going to have an overwhelming amount of highly processed foods on a daily basis. And even when I do, I always try and commit to adding in healthy things, having that salad, still having that green juice, having that smoothie. And sometimes Nourishing my body is having that long bath, getting out of a really hectic discussion when the family is just starting to get into a little tiff, and nourishing my body with podcasts, nourishing my body with really uplifting books, nourishing my body with water, nourishing my body with those types of things on a daily basis. I will still take my supplements with. I will absolutely hydrate throughout the holiday season. Water is the one thing that I will not let go of. And I will really just honor my body in that way and see how can I nourish my body on that day and what does it look like for me? Because remember, I'm an integrative nutrition health coach. So I know that the amount of fulfillment in your entire life, from your career to your finances, to your family connection, to your spiritual connection, all of that is what makes you healthy. And I want to nourish myself in every one of those aspects on a daily or weekly basis. The next thing that I do to help manage my triggers, manage my wonky knee, is rest and then move. So during the holiday season, I don't force myself to be anything. I don't force myself, well, anytime, not only during the holiday season, but it really comes up a lot. If I am feeling tired, I'm not going to force myself to exercise. And if I am feeling a little bit overwhelmed, I'm not going to force myself to go for a walk if I don't feel like it. I always have this thing where I will rest and then move. Because so many of us are trying to move bodies that are toxic, dehydrated, malnourished, and need rest. So many people. So I always see if those things are met, then I'll move my body. Because a lot of times we still try and stick to this idea of the fitness industry and diet culture that I need to exercise off that piece of cake I had. And, oh, I had 3 glasses of wine last night. I better go for a run. Not if you're tired. Rest. Rest is an amazing thing in your mind, in your body, and in your heart when it comes to your triggers. So when you're feeling triggered, babe, rest, rest, rest. You don't always need to do something. That's also a lie of this world that we're living in, that the more you do, the better you are. No, rest is beautiful. Rest is feminine, and that will really help you with your triggers. Just rest sometime. And then I want you to remember to stop the guilt. I don't feel guilty around food anymore. I don't feel guilty if I haven't exercised for a week, a month, or freaking 3 months. And I am a health coach by profession. I honor my body. I honor the cycle that I'm in. I honor the season that I'm in. I do the best I can with the mental health I have, the opportunities that are around me, the situation that's around me. I do my best. And the more I know, the better I try and do. But stop the guilt. Guilt will always lead to being triggered to binge eat or to starve yourself or to purge. It's usually the meaning that you give things that'll create the guilt. So start becoming aware of that. This is a big thing. There's one thing you get out of today is to really start looking at shame and guilt. Start understanding what they are. If you want to learn more about that, Brené Brown is fantastic. Just Google it. Brené Brown, guilt and shame. Understand what it is. Understand how it gets triggered, how it gets formed, and see the link between your guilt and shame and your disordered eating. And it might come up a lot during the festive season because we compare ourselves, because family members might trigger us, because our friends might say something that hurts us and makes us feel less than, and then we feel shame. Then we feel guilty. We might eat more than what the family members around us would deem acceptable, and they'll say something and we'll feel guilty. I want you to know today that will lead to a binge. It will lead to you depriving yourself. It will lead to you purging. It will lead to all of those things if you don't choose to stop feeling guilt when it comes to food, and to stop feeling guilt when it comes to your body and your existence on this planet. You have more power than you know. You don't need to feel that guilt. So now I just want to go over a couple of things again. I want you to know that I hear you and I feel you, and I have been where you are, and it does get better. It really does. All of these things that I shared with you today. Oh, and there's another list. Like, I have probably 18 more things that I could share with you in regards to how to cope with the holiday season when you're healing from disordered eating. But I want you to remember that I get it. It gets easier. I promise you, I don't do all of these things anymore. But these were things that really helped me on a deep, meaningful level to just enjoy it. And that's the last thing that I want to share with you. Have fun. For crying out loud. Have fun. Have so much fun. Have so much fun during the holiday season. Have fun while staying in alignment with who you know you are, because here's the key. The way that you have fun changes throughout your life. The way I have fun now isn't the same as when I was 19. But Lord, no. Have fun in the way that is in alignment with who you are right now, but have fun. Make memories. Take your whole outlook away from the food and put your entire focus on the celebration, the family, the connection, resting, recharging, enjoying yourself, having fun, maybe having experiences that'll last a lifetime. Use it as an opportunity to have fun, not to obsess over food. Start feeling free around food. Have that ice cream on the beach. Have that pudding after your meal. Have that little bit of extra wine. And know that you're free around food and that it's not the enemy and that you're a healthy person who is on a healing journey. You know your identity. Don't force yourself to be or feel or do anything different than what you need in that moment. And don't let diet culture control you for a moment longer. I hope that this episode served you. I hope that it sparked something in you that might just be a catalyst for more positive change in your life. Momentum is real. The more you practice these things and the more you learn how to live everything that you have learned, the better your life gets in amazing ways. And I'm here for you. I absolutely love you. You matter. I am with you in this fight for ditching diet culture and just creating a whole new world to live in. And I would love for you to share your journey with me. Tag at the LifeKraft on social media. Tag at Melissa Lane Wellness on social media. Share with me your journey. Share with me your whole experience in regards to the holiday season and healing and being a healthy person that is on a healing journey, that has food freedom, that ditches diet culture, and that knows that they create this experience. And there's nothing serious going on here, and that you can have fun, and you can make it what you want. And when you fail, there is no failure. It's just a part of the journey, and that you can change it at any time, without guilt and without shame. You're doing great. I love you, and I hope that you have an amazing festive season. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode and taking the time to invest in yourself and in your future. If you loved this episode, be sure to share it with us by leaving a positive review or tagging us in a post or in your stories. Share one thing that stood out or inspired you to live your everyday life better. This helps us create more meaningful episodes for you to enjoy. If you're not already following us on social media, be sure to follow at the LifeKraft for more inspiration and tools to help you live your most powerful life. And remember, you always have the power to craft a better life for yourself, and we are here to help you do just that. We'll connect again in the next episode, and until then, keep creating a life that you're excited to wake up to. We enjoy bringing you interviews from experts and everyday people so that they can talk about their experiences and share information, tips, and what has worked for them on their journey towards a better life. However, remember that the opinions or advice of our guests and myself, the host, should not be taken as personal, actionable advice and is given as general information and education only. Please always remember to consult a qualified professional before implementing any medical, financial, legal, or other advice that you believe might work for you. LifeKraft is not responsible nor liable for your decision when implementing anything you hear on the podcast. Please listen and act responsibly. The opinions of our guests do not represent the opinions or views of LifeKraft or Melissa Lane personally and are meant as information and general education only. Education only. Education only. Education only.